Joining me now is the former U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor inside the Trump administration, Matt Pottinger. He was, in some ways, the architect of the current U.S.-China policy now. Matt, it's good to have you back. Let me start with this and get you to react to the NATO statement yesterday. And in your experience, what the Chinese heard when they read this statement. We call on all states, including the People's Republic of China, to abstain from supporting Russia's war effort in any way and to refrain from any action that helps Russia circumvent sanctions. We are concerned by recent public comments by PRC officials and a call on China to cease amplifying the Kremlin's false narratives, in particular on the war and on NATO, and to promote a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Obviously, I know what that says to an American audience, but what is the PRC, would they be interpreting this statement, and what do you expect them to do in response?
Sure. Good to be with you, Chuck. Well, what it shows is that Beijing's attempted strategy here is not working. The strategy all along was to quietly underwrite and support Vladimir Putin and his war in Europe, but pretend to be a neutral player and someone who could step in and mediate. The world's not buying it because the Biden administration has been skillful in authorizing the release of intelligence that shows just how close those ties are, shows that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin discussed the timing of the war in Ukraine all the way back in early February when they signed their communique together at the opening of the Beijing Olympics. They've shown that the West is aware, has the intelligence and the wherewithal to monitor any financial support that Beijing might provide to Putin to evade sanctions or military materiel, as you mentioned. So the West is basically saying, we've got your number, we know what you're doing, we know what you're contemplating, you will get caught, and there will be consequences.
It seems the place that I guess experts I've talked to think is the most likely way China might quietly try to help Russia is simply energy contracts, purchasing whatever energy they can't sell to Europe. If that is what we see them doing, what do you believe should be the policy response?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not sure that it will be limited to that. I think that we should expect what you just laid out, but look at what Beijing has done for North Korea and for Iran over the years. As those two countries have been under UN sanctions as well as U.S. sanctions, Beijing has pitched a lifeline to both of those countries to keep them afloat, not to make up for the massive losses to their economies from those sanctions, but to give them a lifeline to buy oil, to provide oil in the case of North Korea, and to create special purpose financial vehicles that are designed, specially built to evade sanctions. I think we should expect that Beijing will do what it's done in those two examples of Iran and North Korea and repeat that for Russia. Now, the oil sector, oil and gas, is the one area that we have not gone all in on. I think that there's some logic in not going all the way just yet, leaving a little bit of space for an off ramp. But Beijing's going to get caught in that web if the West decides that it wants to go after the energy exports too.
I guess the question I have, though, is what kind of stomach is either the EU or the United States? We are in an unstable economy, thanks to inflation, thanks to supply chains, energy issues, all sorts of reasons for it, COVID, et cetera. What kind of punishment could we level on China that doesn't already create a more disruptive economy, which, as we all know, every international leader here, including our president and Germany's chancellor, they got one eye on their domestic reaction, too. What is something that's realistic?
Yeah, well, look, you put your finger on it. It's the word stomach, or we could say will, right? We're sending mixed signals right now, and the signal that we want to send is the signal that we're sending with the galvanized solidarity of the West against Russia. We're willing to eat economic pain and disruption as the cost of maintaining the sovereignty and stability of Europe. And so that is a very, very effective signal. But at the same time, we're sending a contradictory signal when we, for example, say that we're going to negotiate with Iran to relieve their, give them sanctions relief in return, allow them to sell oil because we're worried about the rising price of gas at the gas pump. That is a contradictory signal, and Beijing is going to read both of those. And knowing Xi Jinping, he's probably going to look for those signals of weakness and have a bias towards those signals as being where we really are. We've got to.
But he's got internal.
I think we need to stop that negotiation.
He does have a little. What internal pressure does he have about his economy, though? Right? He's got a little bit to be concerned about himself. No. The things he's doing are not in China's interest, but he believes that they are in his personal interest. And right now, he's a dictator. He has erased literally from history. He just did a 100-year retrospective of Communist Party history and demoted Deng Xiaoping in the Reform and Opening era. He demoted Jiang Zemin. He demoted Hu Jintao, his three immediate predecessors. And he's gone back to taking a page from Mao Zedong. He's elevated himself as an all-powerful dictator. So I don't think he cares about economic growth, except as a very distant second priority to his own authority and power. That is, shall we say, an unfortunate change in perspective that I think probably has to change our own perspective when it comes to China. Matt Pottinger, a former Deputy National Security Advisor, appreciate you coming on and getting your perspective here.
Thanks.